everybody. Today's a bit of a different video. I usually would stream and then make videos from the stream, but I am recording offline today. I just wanted to do a separate special video to just do a quick-ish well, I say quick to start with, and then it's probably going to be longer than I intend. But yes, I wanted to play the game Happy Sheepies. So that's what we're doing. I'll select the first thing I want to say. So basically it'll be more akin to the way I do like sort of reviews, like when I do game jams and stuff, some things that I like, some things that I think could be improved and things like that. So first of all, I love the fact that the language selection screen just has people yammering in different languages in the background. I think that's brilliant. I don't know if it's actual words being said because, but it sounds like it and it's pretty cool. Love the art style, first of all. Like, this is super, super cute. I mean, there's a reason when I saw it, I think in the Steam page or wherever I saw it, I was like, I need this. I saw the art style, I saw like the vague screenshots of what it was about. I was like, this is my jam. Now, full disclosure, I've actually already finished the game. I'll show off my achievements. I spent like 7.5 hours because I kind of binged the game. I did take breaks, but like I kind of binged it one day. Don't look at that. Don't look at when the achievements were unlocked. I may have played it from the evening to the early, not evening. I just needed to get that last achievo. Love achievements and things like that. And it was really fun. And I went to their Discord and I was like, oh, have you got any thoughts and stuff? And I'm like, yeah, I could put some thoughts down. And I was like, I am not as great at writing thoughts as I am at doing, well, this in particular. So yeah, I have played the whole thing. So this is from the perspective of having experienced the full game, but we are going to start from scratch again and go from the beginning, because as I play through, I'll try and remember the things that I did and didn't like about the game, and yeah, here we go. The quest system works quite well. Tells you straight up on like the first things are how to get around and things like that, and you do need to follow the quest in order to progress through the game. Let's do the basic controls. Move a sheep. Move the sheeps around. Zoom the camera. Feed the sheepies. Clean up their poops. Feed them with water. Okay, let's do there we go. Give me a bottle. Okay, now we got the thing. Yes, now we've got the settings. I'm gonna fix this music so it's not as loud. Just so I'm not yelling over everything. Okay, cool. Alrighty. Cool. Let's go back. What the... Did I not save the game? I apparently didn't save. My bad. I feel like autosave is probably a good idea if it doesn't already. It feels like it doesn't. Maybe an option to have an autosave and a manual save, maybe? Something like that. Anyways, that was my bad for not, Oh yeah, move the sheep. Yep. Zoom. Do the thing. Feed the sheep. We'll go through this again. Probably could have just adjusted the sound settings when I was in the menu, but I forgot. Just forgot. Alrighty. And... Alrighty. Milk the sheeps. Give me that. Give me that. Give me that bottle. Bottle. Empty bottle. Look. Love the little sounds. Also, really satisfying sounds, and I love mouth sounds. I don't know if all of them are mouth sounds, but some of them obviously are, and like the drinking sound is really cool. Right, gathering needs. So the next thing we do, we get a soil. We buy some soil. And then what do we need? Oh, wheat seeds, that's right. Wheat. We need some wheat. There we go. Whoop. and then water it. Oh, that's right, you have to water. I'm so now used to, like, since most recently playing, and I had played all the way through, was things just water themselves with the auto watering system later, which is good. So some automation already in there, which is great. Butter churn. So as you see, like, basically it just continues to add quests as you progress through, to introduce new concepts and things like that. At a certain point, like this first little bit up until learning how to do the basic things with the sheep, adding their introducing the features and concepts, so the main features and concepts of, like, sheep have to be milked and shorn. You get shear the sheep eventually, and basically I need the washing station, packaging of butter. Oh, and the concept of making things from the things that you get out of the sheep in all the respects. So the life cycle of potential things. And then when it starts to branch out, you can do different things, obviously with the milk and with the wool and with the bits of the sheep themselves. There is butchering in this game. There's an option to turn it off, but, like, that is part of the life cycle of a sheep. So you can butcher a sheep and get meat and leather and other bits out of it you can use. Packaging table is what I need. And paper, obviously, we need as well. And so we can package up that butter. So this is a really basic one, obviously. All you need is milk, butter churn, and turns into butter, and the packaging station, which wraps up the butter that you can sell. Oh, yeah, selling the butter. So control mouse click to sell, and you can also sell things at the top here. So once that area is unlocked at this particular stage, which is what I wanted to get to pretty quickly. Oh, actually, yes, cleaning the bottles. So from here, oh, far out, what am I doing? Wash, sink. No, what is it? Dry sink. Yeah, we need that. Wash. And that basically is the life cycle of most of the sheep except for shearing, so it'll take you through shearing and that sort of thing. I don't not believe in using quests as the way to guide the player through the aspects of the game, but I feel like there could be some opportunity to not make it feel like you have to do the quest in order to... Like, a little bit of non-linear progression would benefit from these branching. The fact that you can have branching pathways, you can choose to focus on, like, a few different things. Some of the quests later on, and I'm not going to play through all the way through to the end, otherwise that'd be, like, a bit crazy. But, like, as I was playing through on my first playthrough, I just want to describe, basically, you can see the logical progression of what it's going to do. You're going to have more crops because you start with wheat, you'll get more crops. You start with butter as a milk product, you eventually branch out into other milk products, and you can see it gives you a good idea of what's going to come along next based on what's here and what's grayed out in the shop tree. So the shop tree, just the shop, as opposed to something like a skill tree or something you unlock to learn how to do things. So the choice to lock all of that behind a linear quest progression system is interesting, and that's fine if the person as developer wants to do it that way. There is a possibility. So when I do, like, feedback and, like, oh, you could do it this way, it's all suggestions. So everything I say is more of I think that it's a good game and that potentially some quality of life things about either player interactions. So what I like to focus on in particular is more gameplay loops, player interactions, sometimes UI, user interactions. That's to do with the player interactions. The UI feeds into that sometimes. There's a little bit, stuff. I think the UI in this one is perfect, great. There are probably a few tweaks that I'll probably bring up along the way, but generally speaking, it's great layout, really simple to understand what's going on, visually showing parts of the gameplay aspects that are really clear and simple and concise so that you don't get confused. It's just nice and clean and simple. Where I was getting to with the linear stuff, though, this is more to do with the gameplay loop. It does feel a little linear when once I get to a certain, I'm probably not at that point yet, but as I'm going to continue to progress through. So we are still learning kind of basics at the moment still. So it is okay to have the quest line be a little bit linear until you have progressed beyond learning all of the basics there are to learn about the game. Which again, we're not there yet, so I'm not saying at this point we need to do all these things. I'm saying that a little bit beyond this point, you might consider introducing something like either a branching quest system where you've got a few tasks to do rather than make it a tutorial. I don't know if that's visually different or if it looks the same, or if it's like potentially you unlock it by doing a particular thing. So like now you can have carrots, now you can have cheese, now you can have, well, okay, not cheese, that's a different kind of thing where you learn with the butchering and stuff, but like a lot of stuff is arbitrarily locked behind a very linear progression system, and I feel like some of that could be dealt out in a drip feed it more than one at a time kind of way. Like each time I need to do something, that is the immediate next thing that unlocks. Thing after that doesn't unlock, and I am sort of railroaded to a very particular kind of experience, which is fine, which is great. If that's what the experience you want is, that's okay. But in my personal experience with games like these that are, like, let's call them cozy games, sim games, what have you, some of them can be quite linear, some of them are story-based, there's all sorts of intentions and that sort of thing, but in my experience, like, games that I enjoy tend to do a bit of hand-holding at the start, because you need that when it's a complex system or a complex game. Even if it's not super complex and there's just a lot in it, you do need a bit of hand-holding at the start, which is perfect, which is exactly what this game does. But later on, like, give a little bit more leeway to the player, like you put a bit more trust in the player that they can they can now, it's like, okay, you finished the tutorial, go out and explore, try growing some onions, realize that you haven't got a windmill yet to make onion rings, like go, oh right, and now I need some money. Like if you want to lock certain objects behind certain depth into the game, so I understand you want to be like, I don't want them to make potatoes straight away because potatoes are a late game item, like that's okay, but use a different method for locking that. And if it's like a really good, like a quick shorthand way of doing that lock without physically locking them off is like, okay, by this point in the game, you will have about this amount of money to spend, or some, you know, disposable income. Maybe you don't have the disposable income, and maybe you're far into the game and you don't have the disposable income. He's like, all right, I need to spend some money on that. Or it's like you get to choose what to buy. Your currency, your amount of currency that it costs to buy, because in all of these things, a lot of the things progressionally unlocked cost roughly the same, which in real life, in the economy of the game, it makes sense that they cost the same. Like a tanning barrel should cost the same, about the same as a wheat siler, or a wheat siler should cost the same as a stretching rack and things like that. You can see tanning barrels 300 here, the stone oven is 300 now. Stove oven gets unlocked pretty quickly. The tanning barrel, it's far down the line after you've done butchering and things like that. So in order to make those items later in the game, give it a higher value, so they have to save up more money or have to be regularly making more money in order to do those expansions. Now, in speaking of the expansions, I'll play a little bit more through what I still consider the tutorial part of the game, and we do need to do, let's go. We can't afford the composter yet, so we're gonna play a little bit more here. I'm gonna feed him some stuff. Give him some water. So that's just some ideas about the, like, it's not the only way to do non-linear gameplay, but what I was trying to get across before is the idea that in these sorts of games, it's not uncommon for them to allow some sort of non-linear progression, or at least some non-linear gameplay. So the progression can still be linear, with the gameplay being a little bit more branching. So if someone wanted to, say, focus on just making butter, or focus on, not just butter, like focus on milk products, or someone wanted to focus on the garden aspect, or someone wanted to focus on the wool shearing aspect, or the clothes making aspect, and that sort of thing, like, you'd probably have to have a little bit of everything, because that's kind of how the game's designed, is to make you do a little bit of everything, because everything happens every day, more or less. Or you'll see shearing is every 2 days, but same. And the idea behind that is so that you can, like, obviously, so you have lots of different things to do, right? Like, the reason it's in the game is because the developer wants to give you the opportunity to do those things. But in this circumstance, you are getting, I think, railroaded a bit by this quest system. So I love the quest system, but I think it needs to be not less aggressive, but like, it does feel a little bit like you're doing a tutorial for the whole game until it's completed. Unless you could change it up and you could do this and deliver it, have it do the exact same thing, but deliver it in a different way and have it be this linear, but deliver it in a story format so that there's a logical reason as to why things happen when they happen. It's like, hey, so-and-so came along and said, hey, there's some, like, there's so many different ways you could frame it if you wanted to have it as a linear thing, but as it is, it feels like at some point it should leave me alone to do some stuff, and it never does. And I'm saying there should never, in some games, like, maybe you never not want there to be a quest that the player is working on, but there needs to be, I say needs to be, it's like, it would be good at some point that the player is allowed to, like, just do some exploring and to do some, like, just working out, you know, oh, like, it's more efficient if I put the plot soil over here and I'm going to move these things around, because there are definitely some efficiencies you can work in with to do things like that. And yeah, at a certain point, I don't think we're quite at that point yet in this playthrough right at the moment, but at a certain point, I think it could benefit from some allowance of some like yeah, some free range playing, I think, and that sort of thing. That being said, as I mentioned before, these are all just suggestions and some things that some players might consider and might want. Some players don't care, and some players actually want exactly what this is. They want a guided thing, they want to play it through from start to finish, and they want to complete it, and it's fine. This is just my own personal thoughts and ideas around this sort of genre and these sorts of games, because I play a lot of these sorts of games, and they all don't have to be the same as each other, and different things are great and all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's worth considering if your experience that you're crafting could be a little bit more enjoyable if you do it in other different ways, just different ways of considering how to do that stuff. So that, with all of that disclaimer out of the way, all of the aspects of sheep farming and things like that, I think have been thoroughly explored, for lack of a better way of phrasing that. The farming aspect, the meat product aspect, the wool and milk product aspects. So a lot of all of that stuff's in here, which I think is really good and well thought out in terms of logical progression. I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So now we're up to shearing, which I did spoil, I didn't mention previously. So we've bought the shears now, we can shear off these sheep. Boop, 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 boop. And yeah, cool. And now we can sell the dirty wool. Eventually you can clean the wool and that sort of thing. So again, what the quests are, there's nothing wrong with what the quests are, it's just how they're being presented and how they're preventing, at a certain point, they're preventing me from going, okay, I think I got the idea. Maybe even things unlock on certain days through the game, because we've obviously got day 1, day 2, blah, blah, blah. Like, there's multiple different ways of allowing drip-fed progression aside from just locking them behind quests. Again, I don't have the perfect solution, but I feel like there could be something there. Oh yeah, this is just teaching us about that. So they're quests and they're up here. So they actually are not perpetual. They don't perpetually stay on the screen, actually. So this is a bit of a UI thing I wanted to discuss as well. So in this instance, we're looking at a box on the screen that always stays on the screen unless you hide it, which is fine. But I don't just have like a little list of things that I need to do. You could probably like even fit a quest log here and have multiple quests running at the same time and be like, okay, I'll get around to doing that, but it doesn't feel like the main imperative by having it up here. And also, You could always see what your quest is. More like in MMOs, you can have a quest or two like at the top. It doesn't have to be overly complicated. It can just be sitting at the side there and things like that. So that's kind of just some thoughts maybe that how that could go. Again, totally don't have to do any of that. Just an idea. Seed saving. Oh yes, we need to grow some wheat. I forgot what was happening. We'll grow some of these and do the thing at once. Get wheat so you don't have to pay for wheat seeds again. I like that system, getting the seeds from the wheat and things like that. We'll do that one so we can progress. Getting seeds. So the one thing, in terms of the ability to get RSI from this game, which is to say, obviously I played it for far too long and far too short amount of time. I will acknowledge this. However, the need to even end game this action of milking the sheep is very much the same, the one I just did here, and also for shearing the sheep as well, and also for like using the shears in any capacity, is exactly the same mechanism you do at the very end of the game. Like end game, when you have lots of sheep and you have lots of farms and you have lots of things to do, it is the same. So there's no automation for milking the sheep, which I think there should be later game. Like obviously doing it early game definitely should be manual, because that's part of it. You want to do the things, you want to do all the things, you want to shear the sheep. I feel like you could have a shearing station where you could pick up the sheep, drop them in, and or even have the thing where it, because it auto things with the compost, with the outhouse you can buy, they automatically go. So you could have a little stall where either the sheep are automatically shorn each day, and they drop at the ground, or you pick them up and you put them to the things to do the wool washing and all of that sort of stuff. So auto milking, auto shearing, I think are two things that made me deliberately get rid of, except for when I needed to have more sheep, it actually made me get rid of the sheep. It made me resent having more sheep than I could handle, because this day progresses through regardless. It can only go faster, can't go slower, and you're only paused when you're in the market menu. So when you're trying to desperately get all of the things, and you'll notice what happens here, is you're trying desperately to get all the things done for the day, and it goes to the next day and everything resets again. And obviously if you leave the sheep for too long, you know, that's part of the franticness of the early game. Like, I for real think that's perfectly fine to have some of that anxiety when you're in that later part of that early game where you're like, oh man, now I've got a bunch of stuff I need to manage. I need to figure out how to manage that. But as you get to the later game, some things are taken care of to make it a little easier, but not all of them. So as part of what could be added to this game, because it's a great game on its own regardless, is some of that automation, having this being a little easier to do. So what is automated, which is great, which I really like, is the feeding of the sheep later on. You get a trough, they automatically eat from the trough, and there's water, and they automatically drink from the water trough. Then the poop goes to the outhouse, automatically picks up their poop. So all of those tasks get to be automated later on, and you get to, you know, you buy them, so you, yay, I was so successful, I can now unlock the task I don't need to do anymore. That's just how job simulator games work. Like, that's just the loop. You do the thing manually for a while, and then it gets automated. Like, that's great. That's exactly how it should be. But on the other hand, you've got certain tasks that aren't automated. One of those things is filling up the troughs. You pick up the whole trough and you drop it in the water well, and also for the wheat silo, you get a wheat silo, we can store wheat, but it doesn't automatically go from the silo to the trough. So that one's not as bad, but on the other hand, I feel like it could have definitely benefited from an additional, like, even if it's, again, another unlockable or an item that's like sends the wheat from the silo to the trough every day and tops it up every day and things like that. And also, I think I don't know if I necessarily tried, but I think I did, and oh no, I didn't buy a second one, I didn't try. But if it isn't the case, or if it is the case, I think it'd be really cool to have the things that you know will stock up a lot, or you'd want to hold on to. This game really punishes, I say punish, but like, it definitely, even in the later game, doesn't give you a lot of leeway to have it makes things lie on the ground a lot and then never gives you the ability to like fix that except for wheat. And so I feel like the wheat silo, maybe there's some plan changes to add additional things to the things. I don't know the roadmap at all, so whatever. You can increase your resource capacity so you can have more things lying around on the ground. But on the other hand, even though you leveled up a lot and you need to struggle with that resource cap, that's part of the gameplay as you progress through. By the time you're in that very late game, that resource cap, you will have raised it. And again, there should be a nice little reward for reaching that later, mid to later end part of the game, and specifically what I'm suggesting is something like carrot silos, potato silos, and onion silos, because whenever whenever a quest suddenly came up that was like, hey, make a bunch of lamb casseroles because we now taught you butchering and how to make casseroles out of onions, potatoes, and carrots and whatever else it was. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to have to reduce down what I have lying around on the ground in order to produce these carrots and these potatoes, and also make space so I have room for the meat to lie on the ground and all the other bits that come out of it when you butcher a sheep. Then what you end up with is, again, forcing the player, when they wanted to complete a quest, forcing them to abandon whatever plans they had and follow your plans instead. So that's another little example of like a little bit of railroading that can unintentionally happen because of how you've got the quest. You're like, oh, well, they don't have to do the quests. Yes, but they want to do the quests, but they also want to play the game. If you can find a way for them to do both without interrupting their gameplay flow, that's the ideal. That's the perfect like middle ground that you want to try and aim for. And it's really hard sometimes, a lot of the time actually, to actually nail like right in the middle there. I guess what I'm saying is like there's a few quality of life changes that will sometimes mitigate the need for the player to feel interrupted in what they're doing. So for example, when I get that quest, if I've got a silo where or even if it's really expensive, it's like, oh, it's a lot expensive, but I really want to be able to clean up all this wool that's on the ground and have a wool stacker, or maybe not wool because it immediately gets changed into stuff, but even like, even something more generic, like maybe they get more expensive as time goes on, but like a chest with stackable things so you can grab, or maybe even not stackable. Let's imagine that none of it is stackable because stacking isn't really a mechanic in this game. So let's presume every square inventory item is one item. That's okay. Or even if it's single purpose storage, like the wheat silo. Like let's say you have a different type of silo, or even just something like, I really like the troughs, because if we go to troughs, for example, it's empty trough, and you can turn it into a carrot, water, or wheat trough, so they'll self-feed themselves from those. I think in the same respect, you could have something like silo, empty silo, and then you can have a wheat silo, carrot silo, potato silo, I don't know, just like places to store your crops and vegetables, so you can, if you're just doing stuff, it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna fill up my carrot silo so I just have a bunch of carrots ready to go, because the thing is the sheep eat the carrots. I don't eat anything else except wheat and carrots, but they eat the carrots. But then I have to have, when I fill up the trough, I just have to have cooked carrots lying around on the ground. I'd really like to put those somewhere when I'm late game. Again, this is all nice to haves for late game. That when we're talking about automation, I'm not saying everything should be easy from the start forever. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But on the other hand, when you're getting into the late game, I'd like to get rewarded for getting to that point and be like, okay, now make it easier for me, or like, let me tidy this up a little bit, stuff like that. So I think an idea to do that would be an empty silo that all the vegetables can go in. I think there's tomatoes as well. Yeah, if I type in seed, it tells you all the different types of things you can grow. So I'd like to just be able to buy a silo and I can decide what goes in it. I like the wheat silo, but I think we need more. And to that end, something that allows the trough, maybe even an upgrade for the trough that auto-fills from, like if there's a water trough, if you have a water trough and a water trough and a wheat trough and a carrot trough, and you have the respective silos, maybe you can do an add-on or an upgrade. Maybe that gets unlocked later. Like maybe that's really expensive. You can upgrade the trough to auto refill, and the wheat trough to auto refill. Maybe it costs a lot, but like you don't have to fill it up as long as the stuff. So you do still have to grow the crops and put the crops into the wheat silo, but you don't have to fill up the trough anymore. Like that would be a nice little automation thing to add into the workflow, I think, potentially. Again, at what point? Figure it out. Like progression wise, it's wherever you want it. Yeah. So stuff like that, automations and user experience. Those are like the main things I wanted to make this video, specifically making this video to comment on, because I am suck at writing things down. But also to say, like, I know I talked a lot about like the gameplay experience, but the actual game itself, fantastically wonderful, cute, and amazing. Like, of all of the things, like a very, I'd say, comprehensive. Like there's so many different things you can make in here, so many different like they even have rennet from the sheep stomach, so you can make cheese and stuff. Like that's pretty cool. Like that's a lot of thought and detail that's gone into this. And again, I've already mentioned the art, but like the art is super cute. Like it's perfect for this sort of casual cozy game. It's just super nice. So you can even make yogurt, all different types of wool products. I would like to see, like, as expansion sort of things, I would like to see more products that you can, like, this is definitely a good solid amount of things, but like I wouldn't complain if there was more different types of things I can make from the wool fabric and the wool things and stuff like that. That would be pretty cool. The only one thing I'll say is a little bit more automation's good, but even mid to early game, I feel like I was chasing around, like doing these sorts of things, that's fine. But when I have two items interact with each other, I feel like it's a little bit wild where they land and where they end up. It's like, okay, if I just do, and it just doesn't matter whether it's, because obviously this is feeding things. So this pops out sometimes, like I can't tell where it's going to go. I feel like it's very energetic. The items are very energetic, and the fact that I'm using my mouse to do a click and drag on every sort of little action that is required. If the items could be a little bit more predictable in their trajectories, then I would be able to quickly get some, like, do things, blah, blah, blah. Like, where is this going to end up? It's way over here, and now it's on top of the sheep. So I don't know algorithmically and programmically how or in what way you would change or fix that. I'm not saying that it's necessarily an issue, but it's more like something that I noticed over a long amount of playtime that sort of was like, oh, where on earth? I felt like a lot of the time when I was playing the game, I was playing, where did that object go? Also help me. And I was like, oh, now it's moving down here. And it's like, I am doing, especially when you have a lot of things to do, like you're washing 6 bottles in a row and you go, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, where's the last one? 5, 6, and then they go, yep, wash. And sometimes when the first bottle goes down, when it pops out of something, it will follow. So if you wash a bottle, then it was like, oh, if this bottle's close by, they'll sort of stack up together. But sometimes that doesn't happen. But even for the sheep, it's very energetic and random. So like if I get shears here, bam, that's over there and that's over there, and I don't know, whatever else is happening, especially if I need to use these shears over and over again. Maybe the answer might not be less energetic items, although I think maybe that will help a little bit, I don't know. But maybe the answer could even be, excuse me, potentially having the shears, like I understand you want them to be something that takes up a resource slot, but maybe you could equip the shears, and you can only equip one thing at a time or something like that, but maybe you could right-click on them, though I know right-click is move, but also middle-click is move. That's interesting. I don't know for functionality whether or not you could just have middle-click as move, but then maybe not everybody has middle-click, so maybe not. Right-click can be move, but like maybe you can have maybe even alt click or something like that, because shift click is auto sell, which is great, but just whatever the key binding is like bind a tool. Like actually that'd be pretty cool. You could bind a tool to your mouse or bind an item to your mouse where you could do a multitude of actions in a row. So if you've got like 3 sheep that need shearing, or 6 or 10, let's say you have the 10 sheep you eventually end up with, you could have even more. But for the quest, you need at least 10. say you could equip these shears temporarily, and let's say you can't do anything else, like just so you don't like cheat on resource space. You can't do anything else while the shears are equipped, but you can equip the shears, and then you can go click, 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 shears, and then put the shears down. You can actually place them where you want to go after they've finished being used, because having to pick up the shears every single time after they've gone out into the stratosphere can get a little frustrating when you're doing it over and over again. So again, not eliminating the need for the player to do something manually straight away necessarily, just making it more pleasant to do so is kind of my thoughts behind that, I think. For the player, I feel like we do actually want them to enjoy their experience of interacting. Like, if it can be a chore, but it can't be a burdensome kind of experience to do that chore. Like, chores can be fun and when presented in a certain way. Because job simulators, and I probably consider this a job simulator type game, there's a certain amount of tedium that is expected and enjoyed, and then a certain amount that is unnecessary and unenjoyable, and knowing where that line is really difficult, to be fair. And some people have different opinions about what is tedious and what isn't tedious, but for me, like, those motions of like hunting for objects around where they've gone behind sheep, like which sheep is sitting in my shears now, is something I did earlier as well when I was playing through the full game. So that's something that could potentially be improved. Oh yeah, we can do buy an empty sack for some fertilizer now. We'll continue through a little bit more and then we'll finish up shortly, because this was meant to be a short video, but yeah, I get carried away. That just is what happens sometimes. So grow. I like the fertilizer idea. Great, definitely a good way, like, and also like very obvious and straightforward. It's like, oh yeah, you turn the poop into fertilizer. Yep, no brainer. That's a great way to use the resource that is obtained within the game. Circle of life, all that good stuff. So really, really love the overall ecosystem of the game is and how it's been implemented. Like, all of that is really, really good. Yeah, so those are my thoughts in terms of automation. There's probably a few that I've missed, but like even maybe the ability to multi-gather the same of everything, or the ability to like pick a bunch of stuff up or store things, like in any way at any point in the game, if there's the ability to give the player, especially me in particular, I'm the player here, the ability to more easily pick up and move the objects around, or where you have, if you have, like, I've got 3 sheep and that's manageable. I found it difficult to manage, even at late game, to manage more than 4 or 5. 5 was the absolute maximum, 4 was the sweet spot. Any less than 4, like if you had 3, it was kind of like a bit like you didn't have to rush and you was like, okay, that's easy, done. Like 3 sheep was too easy. 4 sheep was about the sweet spot. 5 was the maximum, and then if I had 6 or more, I was either not being able to get through everything I needed to in a day, especially if I was doing whatever new expansion quest of the time that was there. But also, if I had 10 sheep, like, or more, if I wanted to have as many sheep as I could, the limitation, my own limitation of what I could click and drag in a given day here, this sort of day, what I mean, was a very limiting factor. So there's definitely some opportunity for some improvements on how the player can interact with the objects on the ground, how they can pick up the objects on the ground, and how some of those things could be better automated, or automated at all. Like, if I have a look at the list of things you can buy here, like, I don't think some of this later crafting stuff doesn't necessarily need to be automated, but on the other hand, like, the ability to stash a bunch of raw materials for things, because I had like a bunch of like cheese making ingredients just lying on the ground, because I was like, yes, I want to make some cheese later, but I'm concentrating on this other thing, and then I ran out of resource room, and it was all of this sort of stuff, and also the fact that fresh meat and vegetables rot. I think cooked ones don't tend to. But later on, if you have the ability to have a freezer to put fresh fruit and veggies into, again, like a silo for the vegetables, and a freezer or a fridge for the meat, for example, or meat and meat byproducts and stuff like that. That would be kind of cool. It might be expensive because it's a refrigerator, but cool. You know, just make the player pay for it by making it more expensive so they have to work for it. Awesome. And now they've got a spot to put that stuff so that if you want some raw meat, it's like, okay, I think I want to make a bunch of things later, but now you have to butcher sheep point in time immediately before you need to use it instead of being able to stash up things. And maybe if that's not that kind of game, then sure. But given it's a resource management, it's a cozy life sim, but I feel like because there are so many resources, it's also a resource management sim. And resource management sims, you know, I feel like I need some storage items and some storage options to go with that if that's the kind of gameplay experience you want to make. But I feel like that would be a cool addition. So, but again, I feel like I've talked about a lot of things that as I mentioned before, like, I preface this with it's a little bit of a different kind of video, and it's meant to be more like a sort of critical analysis, review, feedback on what I think could be improved on the game. So obviously that's what I've talked the most about. But on the other hand, it is something, obviously I would not have played this game for 7 hours if I didn't enjoy it. So I really like this game, and I think they've done a really excellent, awesome, and amazing job. Support indie devs, always. And yeah, I do highly recommend Happy Sheepies from Steam. This is what it looks like when you're looking. Just search Happy Sheepies at Steam. You will find it. It's there. It's really cool that they got 22,000 players. That's really awesome. That's really well done. Great success to you guys. And yeah, so those are my thoughts. And this is the game. I think it's really good, and I hope you make more. Okay, bye!